Hi, I'm Tane.
And I'm Aid, and this is Altar Call, a Married at First Sight podcast. Hi, guys. Here is part 2 of our interview with Lauren. I would say there was sort of a backlash against you guys sort of banding together.
Mhm.
And why do you, I'm sorry to ask you to explain this, but like, why do you think that there was a backlash? Why it went from everybody being pretty supportive to people being like, but why are they, and we were part, I mean, I was part of it in the sense that I was like, why are there 4 relationships being litigated as a group project?
Yeah, I think it's one, I disagree with that backlash. I want to start there because it's almost like you two are friends. And if your friend was going through a very shitty relation, let's say you all were dating two friends
Hmm.
and they were both putting you through hell,
Hmm.
you would start to think like, are they is this a group project on their end to put us through hell? So
Hmm.
it wasn't like we sat there and said, oh, you're going through this very separate thing in your marriage, and I'm going through this separate thing in mine. Let's band together and take the men down. No, it was, this is really shitty. This is borderline abuse that some of us are going through. And we don't get a lot of, what's the word? No matter what we say can be edited. Anything we say and do can be edited. And so the pink came across as for us as a form of silent protest. It's the little thing that we could do with the voices that we don't have in this process. We don't get to have the voices we would want to be heard, and that is a way, as confusing as it may seem to viewers, that was our small way of having a voice.
Okay.
So yeah, it was a lot behind the scenes too with the pink, and I know it seems maybe silly to viewers, but um, it's what we had.
It's way too confusing for the viewers. So your message got lost a little. Sorry.
We honestly thought it would get across because we just came off the coattails of the Barbie movie, which was like feminism
Hmm.
101.
Hmm.
And I'm like, you're seeing what's going on in these marriages, which even if you don't want to call it, I would say I believe there was a case of abuse in one of the marriages. Not physical abuse by
Hmm.
any means, but there
Hmm.
was definitely abuse. But if you don't want to call it abuse, borderline, it was a lot of misuse of people, a lot of misuse of emotions, and a lot of carelessness, a lot of emotional carelessness, I would say, on one end of the spectrum to emotional abuse. And so we thought that this protest would come across very clearly to viewers, but I don't know, maybe we were thinking from inside the box.
I think it was just a confusion because, like Aid said in the beginning, we were all like, writing for Emily, writing for, not Claire, writing for you guys and all that. Pizza.
And we can all be, yeah, honesty is the best policy.
The pizza party really is the height of it all because that's
What a
where.
shit show.
Yeah, it was. And that's where Claire said something to Cameron. I can't say it specifically because I don't remember, but something about being silenced and being that. And we're like, what? Like, when did this happen? How did this happen? But then also texting him to say, make sure you don't say anything because he said she was texting. We don't know what's true or not. It's just what we see. And the way that it was shown, it just seemed like I, I don't think Cameron is innocent by any means. I've always said in his past life he was a cult leader, but it's just like it seemed like he was right about her texting, and she seemed very concerned or whatever it is that she said. And then Becker saying something about the producer, and we're not getting any details. We have nothing to go off of. So I
I
don't know
tell
how
you,
much you can say about the producer or how
Yes.
much you can talk about, but they didn't even touch on it in the reunion. I didn't expect it to because the producer is
hmm
involved. But was it an ongoing thing or was it just a one-time thing? I don't like. What can you say about that?
this is when I wish I had a little alcohol. That pizza party was a shit show. And the way it was cut down, I think the pizza party probably lasted probably 3 hours.
Wow.
And I think y'all saw what, 10 minutes, 12 minutes.
Wow.
Like when you're there for 3 hours, are you just like, can I leave?
I I can speak for myself and say yes. I will say, I didn't really want to be at the pizza party. It was, I feel like anytime we do a group gathering, it's always a shit show. It's never fun. It's always like it always has this fun name like pizza party or Sunday potluck, and then it's terrible. So I try my best to not say too much, but also defend the truth where I could. Because I always told the girls, like, I cannot always defend your actions or your words, but if I know something to be true,
Mm-hmm.
I will stick up for you in that moment. The producer scene, honestly, that could have got its own episode.
Oh.
I don't know how much I can say about that.
Tell us everything.
Yes, it was a real storyline. This producer did exist, and it was not a, I don't think it's the same storyline that was fed to the viewers. Like it wasn't a case of Austin wants to cheat on Becca with this producer or
Mm-hmm.
anything like that. It was more of this producer is really becoming a third member of our marriage, and it's very unhealthy. And this has been voiced multiple times before. You as viewers didn't get to see it, which is probably why it came as some like
Yeah.
she's blowing up her marriage, but this had been discussed at couples retreat. It had been discussed ad
Oh wow.
nauseum that
Wow.
this was a thorn in their marriage. So it was a bigger issue than I think viewers got to see with them. But out of the respect for their marriage, I won't talk too much more
Yeah.
about that.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. We just wanted to see.
No,
We didn't know if it was a one-time thing or it was just him going out with the cameras and he's saying the cameras are stressing him out. We're like, huh? And that's pretty much what the season was. I don't
Everyone was
like.
worried about the damn cameras. Like we saw, and like I said, I was not. I'm not gonna sit here and say, oh, I wasn't uncomfortable with the cameras because I feel like you get enough time in front of the cameras before your marriage to realize like, oh, cameras are gonna be documenting me. But it wasn't. It's. I think it's more so the seeing yourself on TV back is the
Yeah.
more uncomfortable part, and I think that when some people discuss the uncomfortability of the camera, it's not the camera they're worried about, it's the viewers.
Mm,
And I did not have that same thought while filming. And I think, it wasn't um, across the board for everyone.
yeah. So we have to talk about the Chloe of it all. And, and
Oh, Chloe.
during the reunion, they presented it like you guys kept her out of stuff. Well, we don't know if she just wanted to separate herself or if it was you guys. At some moment, she was talking with Emily. We're like, oh, okay, it's not so bad. What is the whole gist of it all? Like, where do you guys stand with her? The whole Michael of it all? Was that a storyline? Everything, whatever you want to say about that.
Um, Chloe's definitely not like left out of things. Chloe was probably more involved than I was, seeing as I was not living in the
Mm-hmm.
space, was not married. But even after filming, we always hung out, whether separately, like some of us together. She wore pink to the first after show. I don't
noted.
know if a lot of people
Yeah.
remember or
Oh, I
saw that.
remembered.
Like, it wasn't, it wasn't that she was cut out of anything or wanted to necessarily distance herself from what was going on. I think that when you're signing up for a show like Married at First Sight, you're introduced to a lot of people at once. And because you're going through this crazy process, you get bonded where otherwise you might not have been bonded to that person. And so when you're trying to have these relationships and friendships post the cameras is when you really get to know people and you just start to, things start to happen. And
Do you feel like if we had asked you that question, I don't know, 4 weeks ago, you might have had like a different answer? Or is it like the further you get away from the experience, the more you're just like, it's over, it's done, I don't care anymore?
you should be an expert. You picking up signs. That's a good question. I will say, if you asked me this 4 weeks ago, I might have had a slightly longer answer. Um, and I'll still go into more details with that as far as me and Chloe. But the further I get away from it, the further removed I am from all of it. And it's just, even when I was in it, I thought it was silly. And, for the record, there was never a Lauren and Michael. There is no Michael of it all. Uh, there's no smoke. There's no fire. There's nothing there. Um, that storyline, I will say, that came about. What was shown in Where Are They Now? I didn't watch Where Are They Now, but I was
Okay.
listening to podcasts.
Yeah.
What was shown is true. I followed Michael on Instagram. She got mad about it. I, on one hand, understood why she was mad, because it's like, oh, you're following my husband. Well, and she put it her husband, but her ex-husband. And I'm looking at it like, well, I'm following a castmate who I have no beef with.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of male castmates that I like. And I'm like, oh, Michael seems to be like Switzerland. So, and I did not know that that was going to be as upsetting to her
Yeah.
as it was. But when she voiced that it was upsetting, I immediately was like, you know what? Easy. Like, if it's a question over you or him, I choose you. Like, it's not a big deal. And then by the time we get to reunion, you all saw all the tension of it all, but there was actually um, a lot of what I would say like reuniting, because leading into reunion, this is when Chloe and I stopped talking. This is when the
Oh,
whole uh, me following him on Instagram happened and us deciding maybe we shouldn't be friends, or not deciding that, but just kind of just not talking to each other. But at reunion, we got together. She had already, like, her and Michael had worked their things out through, what went on with their marriage. And her and I talked. She talked with all the girls, but her and I talked. There was discussions of her and I going to get lunch in the coming weeks. We had put it to bed after reunion because we were just like, we were hugging, we were crying. She was apologizing. She was like, I don't even know why I reacted like that to your follow. And then, and I'm sure you're wondering, like, how do you get from that to Where Are They Now?
mm,
Once again, I was very confused. I woke up one day and the girls are like, hey, Chloe unfollowed us. And I was like, oh, well, we made up at reunion, so we're good. And I go look and I'm unfollowed and blocked.
mm,
And I'm like, and this is right when Where Are They Now is like filming.
mm,
And I'm like, something's going on. And I'm like, the only thing she could be, I was like, I know why I was like, I know why she's going to say she did this, guys. Like, and I know she's going to stick to the her and I storyline because it makes the most sense. Is
mm,
it true that I was going after Michael? No. I'm not, I've been told Michael, like, I'm not romantically interested. Platonically, yeah, like me and Michael have hung out before. I think he's a cool guy. We've talked about this plenty of times. Like, if we were out of this show, we probably would have met and been friends.
yeah.
No problem. But there was never a genuine interest in Michael. But everyone needs a storyline when they're on a reality TV show. So
So what she said on Where Are They Now? And this was part of the confusion because you were saying Chloe's mad because I followed Michael. She seems to be really upset. She was saying there's like online bullying and there's a fake Facebook account. And I remember thinking, I don't know if you're a Real Housewives of Beverly Hills person, but it's been like 3 years and we're still looking for the trolls who like went after Garcelle on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. How does Chloe know with such certainty that one of you guys has a fake Facebook account to go after her? And I just was like, well, where did she get that? Do you have any insight about that? So
it is so, I want to say, I want to be tactful, but I'm sorry, I cannot, and I said this on Where Are They Now, and I stand by it, I can't coddle everyone's insecurities. I think that for Chloe, especially because she came in the show a little later,
Mhm.
she can't fathom that there are people in the world who just want to sit at their computer and troll her without necessarily knowing her. I got called for 2 weeks. I was getting called a slut, a whore, because all the world thought that I cheated. Yeah,
Mm,
I'm like everyone thought that I cheated on this man on the honeymoon, and I was getting called all types of names. I didn't
mm,
think that someone made a fake account to go after me. It's just like, oh, people are mean on the internet.
mhm,
People have all these things to say. So I have no idea why she would think. One, I will say I don't have a fake account to talk about anyone. I don't think any of the girls do either because it probably would have came up in discussion. I don't know where she came up with the fact that, or this notion that we're bullying her or we have fake accounts. Because if you go look, everyone's getting bullied on the show. Everyone has been, and I would never think that one of the cast is behind it or even think to say that with such definity.
yeah.
So I don't know. I just,
As of today, who are you still talking to, regularly seeing in touch with?
as of today, I talked to, the Pink Brigade. That's oh gosh. Oh, I don't want to get that trending. But yeah, I talked to Emily.
It's okay, we're not that big.
Yeah, okay. Let's go back to Oh Liar. No, but I talked to Emily, Claire, and Becca. That's pretty much it. And we hang out a healthy amount. No, I don't see them every day. I feel like the show makes it seem like we see each other all the time, and we ain't got no other friends. But we see each other when we can. Emily, Claire, Becca, and I just ran a 5K last weekend. I haven't seen Emily in a couple of weeks. I think a month, honestly. But yeah, I talked to all of the girls. Keep in contact. Yeah.
So speaking of Emily, one of the things people were talking about a lot was this kiss with the Australian. And they're like, if everybody was, holding the guys accountable, saying they did this, like they felt like the girls kind of downplayed the kiss. What were
hmm
your thoughts on that?
This just, I mean, honestly, this is one of those chalk it up to editing. We didn't down, I don't think the kiss was necessarily downplayed.
Mm-hmm.
One, I wasn't there for the kiss. So
Yeah,
I didn't hear about the kiss until a little bit later.
yeah,
But we all give good critique to each other. It's never oh, it's okay. You didn't mean to. Like, no, we critique each other too. I think that's been one of the most frustrating and fulfilling part of our friendship dynamic is that we critique each other quite a bit because we have this show that we're looking at too. I don't think Emily should have kissed that man. Like I said, I wasn't there. I don't know how it happened. From what it was told to me, it was more of a drunk guy planted a kiss on her.
yeah,
Not saying that makes it any better or it should have
yeah,
happened. I'm just saying this is how, by the time it got to me, how I heard it. But
yeah,
but she have been out as a married woman? Should you put yourself in that type of predicament? No.
yeah,
Was she married? Debatable.
yeah,
I think the
Was
part that
she?
gets people, I shouldn't say people, the part that gets me is not, oh, did she kiss a guy at a bar when her marriage was clearly in the shitter? I think it's that a lot of the conversation was about this whole double date Cameron Brennan
Oh
thing
yeah.
that never, like, there was so much upsetness about a date that never happened, that everybody agreed never happened,
hypothetical.
a hypothetical. And so we're like, but wait, if she kissed a bar, why is she upset about this?
Yeah,
Valid.
yeah,
Very valid. I think with the double date thing, it wasn't that a date was happening, it was the lie behind the date. It was like, and again, I wasn't there. I don't know if this is a lie or the truth, but it's more of you set this up, and it's like, no, this was actually him setting it up, and it's okay. Like it was more of the fact that why can't y'all just be honest? And I think that that didn't come across at reunion because of how choppy it was. I don't think Claire and Emily, at least by reunion time, that they were upset about. It was more so like the lies, the lies. But in the moment in the show, oh, I'm gonna take a sip on that because
Was there a date?
it's
Was there a two women and was there a date?
this whole season is a mystery. Okay, this whole season, I don't know. I don't know if there was a date, but I get what you're saying about the accountability. Like, okay,
yeah,
how can you be mad about this date
yeah.
when you kissed a person? And I think in Emily's mind is, I didn't kiss this man; he kissed me.
Kiss me.
Again, I wasn't there with the New Zealand man. I would have more to say if I was, honestly, but I wasn't. I wasn't there. So, and I also think a lot of the emotion and the by the time we got to reunion, I feel like a lot of the women were like so flippant with the guy's emotion, and that is a lot of the critique we're getting. Like, these men are trying to apologize. Like, let's be real. If y'all were dating these men and 8 months later they came to you to apologize, would you just be all hunky dory about it? Like, no, you're not excited to have this conversation, and you're finally getting to say things that you felt like you maybe didn't get to say during regular filming. So I feel like with the New Zealand man, Emily came off a little flippant at reunion about it because she's just like, how many times are we going to talk about this? I think she was in that mindset at
Yeah.
that point. Um, as far as the double date thing, y'all gonna have to get Emily or Claire on the show. I don't know. um, yeah. As far as I'm concerned, I don't think there was a lot of real marriages, so I don't know why a lot of it is conversation.
We did have a fun question though for you to rank all
Okay.
the men of your season. From fun is fun is questionable, but yeah, I think it's fun.
Fun.
From best to worst, rank all the men of your
This
season.
is mm, mm, this is like asking me to choose from Peter Pan and the Lost Boys, with Peter Pan being Michael and the rest of the cast being the Lost Boys. Are any of them better than the other?
Yes,
Who?
I know.
We're asking
Who?
you.
Y'all
Okay.
think Michael? Everyone's okay.
After the show, I'm seeing things, noticing things, but I mean, I think I can rank. Like, I feel like I would rank Austin higher than Orion, higher than Brennan. So,
Yeah, I think if there's a scale, and we're just talking like as a person. At first, I thought
Yes.
you all were talking about looks too. I'm like, I don't know,
oh
but as a
You
no,
can throw that
person,
in. That can be part of your calculation if
like
you want
as
it to
like
be.
a totality of a person,
totality or whatever you want to metric you want to
mhm,
use.
hmm. Guys, this is really hard. I don't know. I don't know. I maybe Austin, and then in a very close rank, Michael, and then the other three at the very end of the spectrum together in a
Yeah,
nice little nest.
yeah.
Okay.
I think I'll do Austin, Michael. Oh, that is kind of tough.
See, it gets a little sticky
Austin,
after those two, right?
Austin, Michael.
See, I feel like viewers gonna say Cameron, not me.
No, here's the thing about no Cameron is like that's the thing. I want to put Orion last, but I know it's like my biased feelings. But Orion's issue is just like he's just not mature yet. But I wouldn't say he's like
He-
evil like I would say I think Cameron kind of is.
I think it's so funny you said in another life Cameron was a cult leader because I always say that man's a serial. I said if he comes out as a serial killer, I'm not saying he is, but if it ever happened, I would not be surprised.
You would not be on the
Would
news
not.
saying, "Oh, I never knew that could be."
I would have been like,
But you see,
sis,
matchmaking special. I told Abe when we watched it and they told him he was matched and he wasn't excited. I said that's a hell no for me. I will take it
no
back from
emotion.
him and unmatch him. And that's another question that we got. Like, what are some red flags that you think people should not be matched? Like, again, I still think never been in a relationship is a red flag for me
Oh
to
no,
not
I
match them.
agree. When I first met Emily and she said that she had never been in a relationship, I said it could go one or two ways. It could be bad because she might not know when to walk away,
Mm-hmm.
which I feel like it kind of went that way.
Mm-hmm.
Or it could be really good because she doesn't have any relational trauma to kind of go off of and is not bringing that specific relationship baggage. Of course, you're bringing other emotional baggage, but
Yeah.
I think that never been in a relationship. Yeah, because that could just it could cause more. I think as a on the business side of things, it could
Mm-hmm.
cause a little bit more hurt to the business side of things if you're putting someone like that in this type of situation, especially if the partner isn't super healthy. I think that therapy should be mandatory before like I don't think you should be able to go on a show about marriage without having at least gone under some type of marital therapy or counseling.
Mm,
But specifically, I think you should be in therapy, your own solo therapy before the show.
yeah. Do they give you
I
guys
think if there was anything,
aftercare? Do they give you guys
we
therapy?
you have the option to seek out a therapist, and they will cover some expenses for it.
Okay.
For
Yeah.
everybody.
So, yeah,
Okay.
Okay.
and but it's not mandatory, and there is some. I think there was like some type of meeting with the. I don't know. They did a PowerPoint presentation. I didn't go because I got a therapist, but they gave some like, this is how you cope with depression PowerPoint presentation. I didn't go, but um, I don't know what other hard knows because, like I said, this is one of those things where
You know what I don't miss at all? That vicious week before a period. The cravings, the irritability, and just generally feeling off. Now it's easier to manage PMS with estro control. Happy Mammoth, the company that created Hormone Harmony, is dedicated to making women's lives easier. And that means using only science backed ingredients that have been proven to work for women. They make no compromise when it comes to quality, and it shows.
Hormone Harmony contains science backed herbal extracts called adaptogens. Now, here's the beauty about adaptogens they help the body adapt to any stressors, like chaotic hormonal changes that happen naturally throughout a woman's life. For a limited time, you can get 15% off on your entire first order at happymammoth.com. Just use the code AltaCall MAFS at checkout. That's happymammoth.com and use the code AltaCall MAFS for 15% off today.
I don't know the best way to prepare for it. Like I thought I prepared as much as I
Yeah.
could. Like even I've been with my therapist for almost 5 years, and when I told her about the show, we immediately switched to let's see where you're at for marriage because she had to. If you have a therapist, they also have to sign off and say that you're good to go for this type of show. So we kind of switched gears in my therapy to talk more about marriage related stuff. But even with that, I don't like sometimes I wonder if I was truly prepared for the show Married at First Sight. And we do go through like psych evaluations. I know a lot of people think that all we do is sit and talk with the experts, but we talk, we have these psych evaluations. Some people get more evaluations than others, so I've heard. The number goes up depending. Um, and we have a lot of interviews with the producers and with the experts, but as far as like hard no's, I think just therapy, I guess, like you said, no relationship experience. And honestly, this is gonna hurt some people's feelings. You should not live at home with your parents.
Okay.
There is no way you should be
Okay.
I'm sorry. I know everyone's like, Laura was so good about that. I'm not trying to embarrass nobody on TV, but there is no reason that you should go on a show saying that you're ready for marriage and you now you're if your parents are living with you, like maybe you're taking
Yeah.
care of them, that's
Yeah.
different. But you living under your parents' roof, I don't know if that shows you're ready for marriage.
Yep. I completely agree. I think you
Because
should
marriage
make.
is a business too.
Yep. I think you should be making a certain amount of money. I think we talked about it, and I was like, it's not even being classes. It's just like these are all the things that helps you. And I think if you just had a breakup, like what is it, 8 that we always are go back and forth, the
Oh, that's
six
a good
We
months.
always
one.
argue about this because we
We always talk
disagree.
about.
She
I
thinks
don't
you got to
think.
be like 6 months out of a relationship or
Yep.
something. And I'm like, if you broke up 3 months ago, you're good to go.
No, you got to get it
Mm,
out your
I
system.
think there should be like a time period, but it depends. Because what if you broke up? What if you just broke up 3 months ago, but you was only in the relationship for 2 months? What
That's a
like
factor.
do you need that much time to get
Yeah.
over that man or that woman?
But
Probably not.
sometimes it's not about getting over. It's also about, okay, what part did I play? What did I learn? It's just like a, sounds nasty, but a
True.
purging period. Like relationships are just a lot. So
No,
you get
I
out of
I
it.
think there needs
So
to be some time. I
yes.
agree. And I don't think well, there was a couple people who had just got out of relationships, but to each their own. I don't know if
Yeah.
there's a right and a wrong way with
Yeah.
that one. But
Do,
yeah, I do think there should be a financial cutoff, maybe even an age limit too. Because I feel like because I think about when I was 27, I was having a ball. Like, did you really do everything that you could to find a partner that you are like married at first sight? Let's go. I don't know. I don't think so.
I they need to stop giving black women younger men.
they need to stop doing a lot. They need to stop playing with black women on reality TV shows. I don't think maybe I'll get in trouble for this. I don't know. I don't care. But they really do need to stop giving black women like just whatever they have, like picking something out the bag. Because I will say I was a little, as a person, Orion's great. You know, no shade to Orion, whatever. Fine person for someone. Do I think that a black woman who makes the amount of money that I make, who owns her home, who has all these other compliments, should have been matched with a person who does not have a home, does not make as much as her, does not, and this sounds surface level, but when you're thinking of a marriage and responsibilities, it's not.
Yeah.
Because like now I'm sitting here wondering like, well, what type of partner in the home would you be, you know, when you're away from the people who raised you? Are you of equal footing? Are we equally yoked? And all these things come into play when there is this great power dynamics. And I feel like we've all seen it. It always happens to black women
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think I
for
want to
like
clarify.
90% of the time.
Yeah, I want to clarify. It's not the younger part that's the issue. It's that they get younger people who are not there and who are not ready. So it kind of feels like you're getting the DIY version, and no one's here to like
And I
grow
didn't sign up to
someone.
build a bear. I did not sign up for that. And that was a part of my that was honestly a part of the resentment and the emotion on the show. Like everyone's always like, she's crying over Orion again. No, I'm crying because I feel like I got played at every angle. I'm crying because I want to fight everybody. I want to fight everyone involved. And it's like, and now I'm like, and I'm doing this for what? Especially for me, like I'm not even married and I'm
Yeah,
having to show up and do these things. And it's like, you would be frustrated too.
yeah,
You would be boiling.
yeah,
So I do think that if anyone in higher power is listening to this, stop playing with my sisters. Please stop playing with black women, or just don't pick us. Just don't pick us.
So this is kind of a leading question to like job performance of the experts. Are they, because this was a viewer question, because this is something we've heard before is that the experts are actually really helpful, that they're there for you, that they are do much more for you than we have seen. But their first job is to match you. And you're like, well, they didn't do a good job of that. How were they through the rest of the process?
I think that the experts do what they can with the people that they pick. Because to blame the experts for everything, that's not fair. I don't think that's fair. You know, they they have a finite amount of time with the cast that they choose. And do I think that they get it right most of the time? Personally, no. But going beyond the matchmaking, I will say that the experts are there. I mean, you all saw, I don't think typically in the show, like the experts are like talking to people on the honeymoon.
yeah,
Um, but Dr. Pia popped in for us. Pastor Cal was specifically asked for, you know. So I will say that if you need them, they are there.
yeah.
And if you voice that, you need them. And I'll just leave it at that before it gets sticky.
Okay. I was gonna say, oh, did you have a favorite expert?
Mm, in the beginning, I spent a lot of time with Pastor Cal.
Yeah,
So I developed, I feel like, a closer bond with Pastor Cal, but I would say Dr. Pia. A lot of people, Dr. Pia gets a lot of flack. She was, I think she saw what I was going through more than any of the other experts,
experts. Okay.
and she was able to validate me in genuine ways and not just like, you need to, like, oh, I'm just giving you this pat on your back. Like, she was validating things that I was missing. Um, but you know, at the end of the day, everyone has a job.
Yeah,
Everyone is doing their job, I would say.
yeah.
She
I
also
mean,
seemed to be very supportive of Emily.
She was. Her and Emily had a very good bond from the show. Yeah.
yeah. Not that it means anything, but I thought maybe they were trying to say something when the women didn't come up to the experts to tell them this was going on in their marriages. Because I know they asked, like, why didn't you come up to us? And that, I think, part of
Hmm.
why we're asking, like, do they provide the support? Were they a safe space? But I don't want to. Get you.
And no, I can say something on that because I talked to the ladies about this when I didn't know what was no one, and I know this sounds crazy, but we did not know what was going on in each other's marriages until couples retreat. This was like off camera conversation. The boys had separated, girls were separate. And when everyone was talking about all the shit they were going through, I literally looked, I said, why are you guys like not talking about this? Why is this not being brought up more in the light? Like, whose benefit is this? And we have this joke that I always say, like the Oprah Winfrey meme, were you silenced or were you silent? And that's what I asked the girls. I'm like, and they'll hear this and they'll be upset, but I've talked about this to them before. I don't know if it was an act of we are being silenced by these men, or if it was more so, and when I say we, I mean them, because I was very
Mhm.
vocal about what was going on with me,
Mhm.
or if it was an act of we're in this marriage and we're trying to protect our partner. And by not speaking about what's actually going on, this is us, preserving the marriage or
Mhm.
the team or the friendship because that's where everyone was. A lot of people think that Claire and Cameron didn't like each other. Claire and Cameron were really good friends. They were, and that's why it was very hard and difficult for Claire because she didn't understand. Well, she understood why things flipped, but it was they were closer than the viewers got to see.
Really?
And so, yeah, to the point where we're sitting on a couch one day and she's like, well, Cameron texted me. Should I text him back? I'm like, girl, no, no, do not text that man back. Do not entertain him because she really has a soft spot for Cameron. She truly does. And I think it's funny because everyone thinks that Claire's this master manipulator. And I'm like, Claire needs the most guidance out of all of us.
Well,
Huh.
the way it was presented to us is that Cameron got sick and, went through his stuff. And it
Mhm.
felt like Claire was like chasing after him and he didn't want anything to do with her. Like that's what it looked like to us. So what do you think of that?
I think that is partially, I think part of that is true because I think that at one point it was well, we don't like each other, then maybe one person started to like the other person, but the other person still didn't like that person romantically. And then it became a let's be friends. And then there was resentment about the friendship. And then eventually it was like, no, we can be friends. And then it was a let's try to get back together. Do you see what I'm saying? Like their thing is a little bit more confusing, I think, to pin down. And that's probably why it wasn't pinned down on the show because it was a lot of stuff behind the scenes that just wouldn't, it couldn't translate into a TV show that made sense for the viewers.
Thank God for Afterparty. That's how we found out about the attraction and conversation they had the day of their wedding or something. And that's where we're piecing two and two together. But how was filming Afterparty? Like, if you're annoyed with someone and you have to film with them, like, how do you, because your emotions are in your face.
They are.
And half the time, I could see you just trying to, okay, I'm going to keep this smile on my face, but what the fuck?
And that's what I be trying to tell people. I see people like, well, Laura's a good actor. I'm like, how, when, where? I am not, and that was my biggest gripe with the ladies because I'm like you guys are not saying what's going on in your marriage. Meanwhile, I'm singing from the rooftops
Yeah.
what's going on behind the scenes and how I'm being treated. And so After Party was just a vortex in itself because you go on this show and if this was a regular relationship or marriage and you divorced, that's kind of it. You just
Hmm.
go about your separate lives and you don't see that person much. But now not only are we having to watch edited footage back about something that happened months prior, now we're also having to talk about it as if it's happening in real time,
Yeah.
and so we're being asked to put our emotions on the back burner and become these happy-go-lucky people or exist in, whatever world that is. And then we have to go back months later when the show airs and do it all again. So it's it's kind of a mind fuck when you think about it. Like my
Yeah.
therapy sessions were great. And that's why I think you need to be in therapy to go through. something like this because it can, if you're not, I would say, mentally strong enough, it's really hard to get out of that loop and realize like, oh, this is not the emotion. I'm not feeling the same thing that I felt then, even though, or what am I trying to say? Like talking about something that can be highly emotional can kind of like pull you back into those emotions.
Yeah.
And it's hard to separate where you are now versus where you were then.
Yeah.
And so filming after show, it took a while. I think that was sometimes more difficult than filming the show
Mm.
because of just the emotional turmoil you're put in. But it wasn't, for me, it wasn't too bad because I feel like I think honesty is the best policy. I say that all the time. So I feel like I was 100% honest on the show. So it was very easy for me to talk about things on After Party because the truth doesn't change.
Hmm.
That doesn't change. So I'm not trying to like remember things or remember what I said or put things together because I'm like, no, this is what happened.
It's so, for the viewer at least, and I've picked up on this season after season. I always say there's a switch in After Party after the show starts airing. Like there's the after parties you film before the show starts airing, and there's the after parties you film after the show starts airing and you start hearing from people. And it's like
Hmm.
people change. Like, did you observe that?
I sure did. The biggest observation was seeing who decided to do after parties before the show was airing versus who started coming all of a sudden because they were like, well, I gotta clear my name. I thought that was interesting in itself. Didn't you?
Ah, I was gonna ask. I was like, do you have a choice when you could? For the longest time, we did not see Brennan and Cameron, and then all of a sudden, I'm gonna name names, and then we saw them. So, so I was gonna say, like, do you have a choice? Like, oh, I don't want to come. Oh, yes, I can come, or whatever.
You, yeah, you do have a choice.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
you're not, there's no gun to your head for that part of film. There's no, yeah, you have a choice.
It
Oh,
seemed like, I don't know if you liked doing After Party. You were on a lot.
she and Emily.
Um, you and Emily were on quite a
I was
bit. Why
on way
was
more than I needed to be. You know, I didn't like doing After Party. I did like supporting Claire and Emily and Becca where I could. I didn't get asked a lot about Becca at After Party. I thought that was interesting, but where, because you notice like everyone's not on every after party. So sometimes
Yeah,
you're on an after party and you're being asked questions about, you know, someone else's marriage.
yeah.
And I wanted to be sure that I could, like I said, defend the truth for them. But it's so funny. I would get to after party sometimes and I would just so regret going. Like I would be in the middle of it, just like, I should have never came to this. And I think that shows on some of my after parties. Like people are like, Lauren does not look interested. And I'm like, I'm having that feeling of I shouldn't have came. Like this isn't fun. This isn't talking about the marriage that never was is not fun for me.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
it felt like a good way to tell the truth of things. Because one thing about after party, the way it's sold is, well, this is a good way to get, you know, your story out that
Yeah.
you and then you forget that, well, the after party is edited too. So it's like it's something. And I did want to continue to get my story out. That was really priority, like not the girls, honestly. The priority was me and my story. But looking back on it, I feel like I didn't need to do so many after parties because it was, at least in the beginning, my story was clear. I do think it started to get a little bit like what is going on towards the end, though.
Yeah.
And mainly that was, sorry, the Pink Brigade. Like you're right. Your story is pretty clear for the most part. But yeah, one of the weirdest thing to ever happen at After Party, in my opinion, is when Emily got kind of testy with Keisha. And we were like, hold on. Like we've listened to a lot of cast members and they're like, well, we like Keisha. Keisha's like really kind to us. And I was like, what is Emily doing to our girl?
I don't know, y'all. That from an outsider looking in, I feel like sometimes personalities just don't mix. I don't even think it's a case of I'm not believing you or I don't care. I think sometimes personalities just clash, and that was an issue of personalities clashing.
But it also happened with Kevin.
Not to the extent
Really?
as
Oh,
KKP, I feel like. Yeah,
okay.
yeah, Emily was, I feel like she said like that could have been its own after party, honestly, because that went on longer than viewers saw too. It was
Okay.
very emotional, but I think that it was a clash of personalities. Emily is a very strong personality. Her and I butt heads sometimes. That's why I said growing a friendship with people, you start to notice things. And Emily and I clash, and she's not a bad person or anything, but she's learning a lot of things and she's reprogramming things that she has seen in her childhood too.
Yeah.
So I don't think her and Kevin was as, I didn't watch all of Reunion. I didn't watch most of it, but from what I remember, it wasn't that big.
Okay. I think Kevin just didn't
Maybe
care, or
he
maybe
handled
Kevin
it.
is
Maybe he
seasoned.
handled it better.
Yes, he's more seasoned. He's like,
That's what it
you
was.
yelling at me is not going to change how I feel. I'm going to tell you the truth.
Yeah, and we did it. Like I said, everyone thinks that we just like downplayed things. In that moment at reunion, I remember when Emily came off stage and she's like, and we could kind of watch what was going on.
Yeah.
Some of like her and Brendan's thing. She's like, "How was it?" I'm like, "Oh, not good. Like that was not good. Like why were you like we critique each other. We don't just sit there and feed each other bullshit."
Yeah.
And that was really hard for her to take in because on one hand, was it the best way to get all that off her chest? No, but on the other hand, I understand where she's coming from. I
Yeah.
understand completely as a woman scorned where she's coming from and why this is overtaking her the way it is because she hasn't had to see this man in months. She hasn't had to deal with this, and now and now we've seen the show and she's reading the comments, and I think it was just overwhelming in the moment.
Okay.
That's all.
I'm glad you said that, you critique each other, because it was just, watching something where she's like, I'm a 10, you're a 6, and you're a 2. I hope in 20 years he thinks of me. You're just like, then I think you even said it. It's your first relationship. So you were trying to say it the best way you could. So, these feelings are valid, but that man ain't going to be thinking about you in 20 years.
I told her that.
So,
I was like, you shouldn't either. Like, and that's one thing. Emily, I look at Emily like a little sister
yeah.
sometimes. She means well, but this really was her first relationship.
Yeah.
And what a traumatic way to do a first relationship. That's why you should be disqualified.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed. Okay. We have to ask, are you dating? Are you happy? Where you at? What's the tea? What's going on?
Oh man. I said this earlier. When Married at First Sight was presented to me, it was presented as a docu-series
Yeah.
to document a marriage and like the things leading up to the marriage and post-decision day. And, that's great. Cool beans. And I think that the best thing of coming on the other side of this and not being held to um, that that contract is that I don't have to document a lot of my life anymore. I love it here, and I'm
Freedom.
happy. Your girl is also. I tell you to say your girl is happy.
Okay.
She's not lonely, and we
Okay.
good.
Okay.
Life is good.
That's good to hear. That's good to hear. So to wrap things up, the final question someone asked was, would you recommend someone going to MAFS? Like your friend comes to you and we're like, you know what? I want to sign up for it. Would you recommend? And are you going to watch the next season?
Um, I would tell someone that asked me if they should do math to proceed with caution, and to really determine if they're ready for that type of commitment, not just a marriage commitment, but the full commitment of the show. So I can't say with a full heart that I would recommend it, but I wouldn't try to persuade someone maybe not to do it. And as far as watching the next season, if it's gonna be as long as our season, probably not. I don't know if I have 6 months of viewing in me, but it's in my home city, Chicago. So I might like peek to see if I know anyone that's doing it. But no, I think that the I'm no longer like it's like the veil has been
Been lifted.
lifted and it's
Yeah.
hard to watch the show as a pure viewer. So I'm hoping that it's a good season. I'm hoping that we have some couples that stay together, and I hope it's more love stories, but I might just pop in and listen to a podcast or two on it.
Hey, we got you, girl.
Make
Well,
sure
we
it's
Yeah,
hope
ours.
so.
yeah,
We
of
hope so
course.
too.
When I say a podcast, I am talking about Altar Call, of course.
Well, Lauren, thank you so much. This has been great. Thank you for speaking with us, and we wish you all the best moving forward. And, if you do watch the season, we may or may not have you back. If you know someone on there, we
I
will
can't
have you
wait to
back.
see.
Lauren, Nicole did it. She came on and she just got to talk about the current season. It'll be more fun, I'm sure, than
That
talking
would be more
about yours.
fun.
Yes.
Who knows? Maybe you'll see me next season pop up. Who knows? Who
We
knows?
would love
They
that.
always have a special or something on those Married at First sites.
That's
So
true.
And they're going to
I
ask you.
really
I feel really confident they're going to ask you to do one of those specials.
Would you do it?
who knows? Who knows? I guess when the time comes, I'll have a better answer. But right now, I don't know.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. I had a really fun time. This was a breeze. This was
Yeah.
much easier than filming. So thank you so much for inviting me. Thanks for not, going too hard on the questions. I hope it was at least mildly entertaining.
Yeah, it was entertaining. I
I
had
had
a
a
good time.
blast.
And then we also got some things we didn't know about before. So it was great.
Good job.
All right.
Thank you
Thanks.
so much, ladies.
So you can find us on Instagram and Twitter at AltarCallMAFS. That's AltarCallMAFS. We love hearing from you guys on the socials.
We're available anywhere you listen to podcasts. Thank you for listening to us. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any new episodes. Give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts or Spotify if you're so inclined.
Thank you so much for listening to our episode with Lauren, and we'll see you next week.